we'll move into the Chancellor's report. Chancellor?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board, members of the dais, and members in the audience. I have a couple of things that I would like to report on. There were quite a few comments on the issues of the FAS and the communication. I'd be glad to provide a lot more detailed information, but I just want to correct some, what may be some misunderstandings. One, there actually are some good suggestions that I heard in these presentations, and we'll be following up with regard to many of those suggestions. I just want to be clear that any faculty member, classified staff professional, any person working in the district still has the ability to communicate throughout the district. And that ability is by sending a communication to announcement at peralta.edu. We also set up additional, and with regard to that, yes, that as has been the practice, the communications that are sent to announcement at peralta.edu are reviewed and distributed. They are reviewed to make sure that they comport with the board policies and administrative procedures, your policies on communication, telecommunication, as well as civility. They are reviewed to make sure that they do not violate federal and state laws. They are reviewed. For an example, people don't have the right, they have the right to free speech. They don't have the right to hate speech, for an example. And then they're disseminated. If an announcement comes through, and as a matter of fact, in the course of this process, we had an announcement that came through that was quite critical of the decision, quite critical of me personally, but nothing was inappropriate about the announcement, and they were disseminated. It was disseminated, so it is not a case of not disseminating criticism. The other thing is that we set up additional opportunities for communication. Faculty at the respective college sites, classified staff at the respective college sites can send communications to their entire colleges by sending it to their set up email address, which is the college's announcement. So you might have BCC announcement at peralta.edu. That goes to their PIO, it goes to their president, and the colleges are putting out their processes for distributing the announcements, but the announcements again are reviewed for board policy, administrative procedures, and to ensure that it's appropriate speech. We also set up additional tools, which is they have access to Yammer. The distinction between the additional tools that we have is that it is an opt-in opportunity. So faculty and staff can send out a message to everybody who wants to hear from them. So for an example, during the course of this conversation, I heard, for an example, from a staff member that said, I don't want all that stuff in my email. It usually is, stuff that's not related to us. It clogs up the email. And they said to me, so I would not have that. But if somebody who does want all that stuff in their email, they would be able to opt in and get everything. So there are several tools, announcement opportunities that are set up. As well, we wanted to make sure that the labor units had the opportunity to talk to their memberships and constituents, that the academic senates could talk to their memberships, and the classified senates could talk to their memberships. So the labor unit president, the grievance offices of each of the colleges, has the ability to use the FAS list and send a message to every one of their members throughout the district. The classified union, SEIU, and the local 39 have the ability to send out a message throughout the district to every one of their members. The district academic senate can send president can send a message to every faculty member, full and part-time, in the entire district. The college academic senates can send a message to all of the faculty that are full and part-time at their particular colleges. So we set up lots of opportunities for people to be able to send out the messages. I heard in the course of the presentation some suggestions about additional people like the governance chairs, and those suggestions we want to take into consideration and be able to incorporate suggestions so that we can improve it. I think that there are also some just criticisms around the opportunity for us to do a lot more training and sharing of information so that people will feel comfortable and will know, how to use the different tools that that are available. I think so. We'll be doing a lot more work on that. To make sure that we can do that. I also want to I'm going to close these comments. I don't think that there's probably much that I would be able to say to satisfy some of the concerns that are expressed, particularly in light of the way in which people are viewing their the treatment, the inability to send out unfettered messages throughout is seen as a censorship. I just want to let the board know that the management of email permissions is something that is very typical throughout the system. We did do some work to find out what are other colleges doing, other districts doing, and we did learn that most of them overwhelmingly have certain types of restrictions, certain types of mechanisms for people to be able to send out all campus messages and all district messages. There were a handful that we did learn that did not, and the CEOs and the PIOs who responded with that they did not have that, and it causes tremendous problems. So this was not something that just kind of came out of the blue. The other thing is that I absolutely agree that this is a time that people need to be able to communicate. And so I am hopeful that we can do a much better job in terms of making sure people know about and have all the tools that they need to be able to communicate. And then finally, I'm going to make this last comment about this. And it is just part of the message that I try to, have us be very careful with ourselves, because I don't necessarily know whether it's through intent or benign neglect, but the effect can be the same. You don't come necessarily to this situation if you don't want criticism, because with my experience in the district is that people will freely let you know what they think about things, and many times are not necessarily practicing what they're demanding, which is graciousness and kindness and respect. But that's okay. That's part of being in institutions and societies where people have different perspectives and the right to think differently than others. That's okay. But it is not the first time in my life, being an African-American woman in these United States, that I have been told by someone who happens to be a white male that I am inferior. And I don't necessarily think that it's intended to come across in that way, but it's what's called a universal concept of white supremacy. And I think we have to be very careful because I don't necessarily believe that someone intentionally would make that statement. However, if you look at the, as someone said earlier, optics of it, the very notion of the criticism is against the administration. Dr. Regina Stanback Stroud, African-American woman. Delisle Warden J.D., African-American man. Chanel Whitaker, African-American woman. Lee Sata, Asian male, Asian-American male. Mark Johnson, white male. Dr. Tammeil Gilkerson, Asian Pacific Islander, Filipino woman, American woman. Dr. David Johnson, African-American male. Dr. Tim Karras, white male. Dr. Debbie Budd, white female. So we have a very diverse administration, district administration, as it is disparagingly put sometimes, that is overwhelmingly people of color. And so I just want us to be careful that we're not clumsy with our lack of critical consciousness and racial literacy, to stand up and to say that you will not be told to do something by people who are clearly your inferior. So I'll close my comments on that, and I'll go to other parts of the report. And I welcome and appreciate the commitment and the passion that the faculty and staff who spoke today came with. I welcome that, actually, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to get better and do better by Peralta, and I appreciate the willingness for everyone to kind of take a look at themselves and their part in it, and continue to support this district and these colleges in being the great places that they are. The next part of the report that I would like to go to is just a yay announcement on the bond rating report. We got the Fitch bond rating report, which is a AA bond rating. That means we have a high grade bond rating. That is actually just some very needed good news, especially as you start to consider the issuance of the bonds. I prepared a report and will beg your forgiveness for it being so basic, but it might be a reflection of the level of discussion that I needed to be able to have around, bonds and bond ratings and what it means to us. But in the end, it's good news. The second thing I'd like to go to is the report on the accreditation. You know that we have to give a report to the Accreditation Commission in November. And it is a report on the different things that we've done in response to their concerns that ended up placing the 4 colleges on probation. So I prepared for you a report to let you know a little bit of the thinking about how we're approaching it. I backed out a timeline to get a board report, to get the report to accreditation by November 1, and to have the board be able to act on it in October, and to have the board be able to have a first reading in September, to have an open forum in the district. And we realize that people will be just getting back for the fall, to have an open forum. Hopefully it's face-to-face and doesn't have to be virtual in September, to be able to disseminate a draft in early September, to be able to engage the board to get feedback as we create the drafts in late October, to be able to engage the governance groups when they return in mid-August and September, to be able to disseminate a draft to all of the employees in mid-August. And we recognize that people will be just getting back. But the great news will be that when we hold the forum and when we're gathering the information, it will be in response to a draft that we can hopefully improve with the feedback. We have a meeting with Dr. Stephanie Droker on April the 20th, and we hope to get out of that meeting an understanding of what the Accrediting Commission is looking for in this report, because we are a little bit at the disadvantage of when you write an ICER, you know specifically what standards you're speaking to. In writing this report, they identified the reasons that the colleges are on probation, and they identified reasons that were around processes, structural deficit, resolving the OPEB liability or smoothing that out. And so many of those are things that are not done at the colleges. So we intend on addressing those issues at the district level, but engaging the governance groups to be able to give the feedback and input on that. So we are going to be working with putting together the people who will write the report, and it's a lot of quote unquote district finance that has to be put together. And then we'll be getting started on that in actually this week is where we start to try to put the teams together to get the initial work writing done, and then start to engage people throughout. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a report on how we're thinking about it and what has to happen. I think Dr. Stroker's meeting with us is going to be very helpful and get us focused. I do think that one of the big issues that happened with the accreditation, the 5-year sustainability report, is that even that was not in a traditional accreditation structure. And though it was structured in a way that, they had asked us to structure it, I think that the people who were reading it, the commissioners, were not accustomed to reading that structure. They were accustomed to reading the ICERs, and they were asking, when they gave us feedback, they mentioned that the structure was hard to follow. So we'll get that addressed as well. And then the other thing that I do want to say is just in terms of the pandemic response, there are a lot of things that are still in the works.
Just we have a couple minutes.
Just a couple minutes. We'll tell you when.
Brenda, you may want to mute everybody. Can you hear me? Brenda, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then the last thing is I just want to say a little bit about the pandemic response. So we have a more strict shelter-in-place order that was recently released, and that put even more limitations on what we could do, and it put some limitations on and requirements on social distancing protocols and some requirements on notices that went on buildings. We complied with that, created the notices, put the notices on the buildings throughout the district and at all of the college campuses. And we'll continue to work on, we're working with faculty and staff right now because there are some programs where they actually do need to be in their lab spaces, or they need to be in their, have a physical face-to-face instruction. And so the faculty have been working with VC Brown in figuring out how they're going to approach that and set up times for them to be able to be safely in the building using social distancing protocol that takes into consideration the square footage, the rooms they're in, including the bathrooms that are on the floors that have to be available. The other thing is that the colleges are having conversations about a graduation. So the student life activities directors have been collaborating across the district. They're looking at doing a virtual graduation. And the virtual graduation is, a process that, companies, you have the students take pictures, the students we send in that information, they get a chance to make a statement, we record speeches, and then a presentation is created. So it's not actually an event. We did a survey as well, and we learned that some students, want to have a regular graduation, so they would rather for it to be postponed and do it in December. Some students said they would participate in a virtual graduation, which means that they would send in the information. It's not an actual event you go to. And so we're trying to figure that out. We're costing it out. We think that we want to at least do something so people have a commemoration and a keepsake, but it doesn't mean that it's mutually exclusive. So colleges may want to end up doing a postponed graduation at the end of December as well. I've asked the colleges to work together as a district because I want to make sure that the board has a similar opportunity and experience across the district. So we'll let you know more about that. We had some people ask about questions about things like grading and emergency funds, and are we going to give refunds, and are we going to have enough technology, et cetera. There still continues to be a number of issues that we just continue to go after and try to address and work with different people in order to get it done. I will tell you that on the emergency funds, we've done quite a bit of work in trying to amass and pull together the different opportunities for students. The CARES Act will release quite a bit of money to the 4 colleges, and it has some requirements that 50% of the money be used for students' emergency needs. It'll be in the context of this crisis, but also will be resources that will be available, quite frankly, to students through whether there was a pandemic or not. And so we don't know yet the exact figure that we will get, and we don't know yet how the feds will release it and what we would get. But the colleges are starting to have their conversations now, likely working these types of things through processes like their financial aid processes and that type of stuff. There are also some colleges have smaller funds where they're repurposing some of their funds that where it is allowed. These are smaller funds that they're getting, little $500 helps out to students, and they are putting together their processes and their announcements. We also have learned from the state that it's okay for us to use some portions of what's called the SEA funds, and that's what used to be called like student equity and the matriculation type funds. They're all consolidated now into one categorical block. And these SEA funds, we've agreed across the district to set aside some of those funds to use for student emergencies, and then use other, in other words, if we normally would use SEA funds to pay staffing, we set aside a certain amount for student emergencies and then use some salary savings from other areas to cover the staffing that would have been in SEA. So student equity and the other programs don't lose anything necessarily. It's just us trying to repurpose the monies or salary savings that might exist. So a lot of different things are going on, and we're trying to organize it to get the communications out and to get the processes in place so students can access it. And then in terms of the refunds, we are having conversations about the refunds. We are checking with other districts as well. Some districts are giving refunds. For an example, the parking refund, they are giving half of the parking money, 50% of the parking money. Other districts said they figured out how many days were left in the semester and they prorated it to give them money back because they can no longer use that service. Some people said that they were crediting it for the next semester. And so we asked finance to run all those different simulations. So for an example, if we were to give back the parking monies, it might have something like a $40,000 impact. But if we give credit for the next semester, that could have as much as a $75,000 impact. So, and the reality is the students may need that money right then. It equates to about it's coming out to be about, $10 or $15 per student, but that might make that asks for it or that gets it, but that might make a big difference to a student at this time. In terms of whether they get a refund for withdrawing, we're also running those scenarios also. That has a significantly higher financial impact. And the refund for withdrawal, so the student mentioned that they got an EW, they would get an EW on the transcript. The EW on the transcript is something that the Chancellor's office did to make sure the students didn't suffer any negative consequence as a result of having to withdraw. And if a student has to withdraw, it could be because of EW, then it could mean that they could get a refund back. It depends on if the student doesn't withdraw, then we wouldn't necessarily give a refund because we are making arrangements for the student to be able to complete the classes. But if the class is canceled because it's impossible to complete it, or if the class is canceled, if the student withdraws because even if the class goes on, they can't do it, they can't complete it, then we're considering the possibilities of giving them back the refund. So that's stuff that we are trying to go through the right processes and get all of the right information and not make the decision based on pieces of information, but it's definitely something that we're trying to consider to get addressed. So I hope that that's helpful information to you to get you kind of informed about the different types of things that we are addressing in the response to the pandemic. And then finally, I will say that we have formed a regional group of the CEOs, and many of the district administration are participating in their counterpart meetings across the state for some, but for me in the region, for us to be able to share information and share good practices. And with that, I'd like to go to the college reports. You have the reports in the board agenda, but I'd like to ask for each of the presidents to perhaps highlight something that they would really be interested in making sure they got a chance to share with you. And can I start with the College of Alameda, please?
Sorry, just getting me unmuted there. Oh, hello, everyone. Greetings from the Valley of the Heart's Delight, aka San Jose. Delighted to see everyone tonight. I just want to give a shout out to two things at COA. There's more things in the board report, of course, but two highlights. One is to our department chair of our aviation program, Hoy Ko. He was interviewed on ABC News 7 last Friday, April 3rd, about the impact of grounding aircraft right now, because which I learned by reading the article or listening to him, is grounding an aircraft isn't the same as just parking your car in the garage for a couple weeks. There's some other stuff that has to happen. So that makes aviation mechanics imperative, and that's his program. So it's really wonderful to have someone seen as a regional asset who gets asked questions like this from our news programs. And we're so proud to have Hoy as a member of our COA faculty and family. And then second, a kind of a group shout out to our student services in counseling and advising. They all came together, the counselors, the staff, and the administrators to get the online counseling up and running for our students right now as they're taking their courses. And then also on top of the online counseling opportunity they have, they put a widget on our website in the counseling areas and advising areas that allow brief chat features. So if you had a quick advising or counseling question, you could just chat with the person. I was going to try it out today, but I thought I wouldn't impersonate a student, so I'll do secret shopping later. But I'm really proud of them getting that up and running and being so student focused and so student forward. So that's my brief report tonight, and I will see you in a couple weeks again. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Karras. May I go now to Berkeley City College?
Thank you, Chancellor and Board of Trustees and entire Peralta Community College District community. It is my pleasure to be here this evening, and I wanted to start with our Berkeley City College report congratulating 3 of our faculty members. Dr. Thomas Keys, Dr. Alejandro Wolbert Perez, and Dr. Laura Roberto have all received the Mellon ACLS Community College Faculty Fellowship. This fellowship will allow them field research time and reassign time over the coming year to continue their research and bring that back to the college. ACLS is the American College of Learned Society and has been in existence for over 45 years. This is a really huge honor for our faculty, for Berkeley City College, and the entire Peralta community. So congratulations again to Tom, Alejandro, and Laura. I also wanted to share that thanks to a previous grant that Berkeley City College received, we have had Chromebooks in our library for the past several years as a lending library, and we've been able to start lending those to our students. That's thanks to the great work of our Vice President of Student Services, Dr. Stacy Shears, Martine Delmuncha Flores, John Wynn, Kai Ocasio-Paro, Josh Boatwright, and the entire library team, and our IT team, who have tagged within the library our Chromebooks to start to distribute to our students. And then in the coming weeks and months, thanks so much to Chancellor Stanback Stroud and to our Vice Chancellor of Technology, Antoine Mahuli, we will have up to 9,000 more Chromebooks and laptops coming. So we're really looking forward to that, are distributing those now and making sure that our faculty, as students come back this week, continue their survey to ensure our students have the technology for the remote learning. I'd also like to share that it's been an extreme pleasure serving the district over the last 3.5 months. As you know, I am retired, and I did come to help out for the past few months while Dr. Stanback Stroud looked for a new president. And I am extremely happy with the new selection of Dr. Angelica Garcia, who will begin her leadership at Berkeley City College. You know, as I said when I joined, Berkeley City College is absolutely my favorite job in education in my 33-year career, and coming back, it has absolutely shown me how fantastic it is. And it's still so exciting that Berkeley City College remains #1 in the percent of transfers to UC Berkeley. So we are so thrilled with that out of the 114 colleges in the state. And in closing, I did want to say just a few more words about Joe Doyle, who passed away today from heart failure. He fell ill in January. Many of us saw him at the hospital when he was there and then spoke with him recently. And without a doubt, Berkeley City College was his family. And when we went to visit, he said to the nurses, "This is my college family." You have heard that Joe worked at Berkeley City College for over 22 years as a full-time faculty member, but he was also an incredible and well-known artist. He was known for his digital printmaking, and as you heard from some of the PFT, really his political and social statements. From the burning refinery print that is on one of our floors in our building to photos he used to take of planes at the Naval Air Station, he's always had something to say. And he most recently was so proud of his recent gallery show at St. Mary's College by Ann Rosenblum. So I want to thank everyone who said such kind words about Joe. And I really want to thank the board for this evening when they have a few moments of silence in honor of Joe Doyle. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Budd. May I have Dr. Tammeil Gilkerson with Laney College give a report?
Tammeil,
you're muted, Tammeil.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor. I apologize. I have a very unstable internet connection right now, so I've been struggling with that. So I want to thank you, Chancellor, for the opportunity to provide an update tonight on behalf of Laney College. I want to start my report, trustees, by noting that I'll be speaking on things that aren't necessarily in the board report that I put in today, but wanted you to know that I wanted to start by sharing a message of gratitude that I'm sure that you share with me. And it's a message of gratitude to the team of classified professionals, faculty, student employees, and administrators who've been compassionately focused on continuing our relentless commitment to high quality, student-centered instruction and services. Our Laney College team has worked relentlessly to keep our clean, move services, financial aid, welcome services, writing lab, tutoring, library, admissions, and our learning communities, to name a few, to remote formats. Our technology team has worked relentlessly to provide hands-on support to all employees and our students, from help with laptops for employees and software programs, and are beginning the efforts to work with IT professionals across the district to deploy and be ready a series of Chromebooks that will be distributed beginning next week. My thanks to Vu Fan, Roxana Post, Tuan Doan, Will Jones, and Gerald Casey, and led ably by our IT Director of Information Technology, Rupinder Bhatia. I also want to recognize the 370 faculty who have worked to learn new learning platforms, offered encouragement to their students, and are continuing to convert class lessons and labs to remote modalities for over 719 sections that we offer at the college. I also want to thank the management team at Laney, who provide unparalleled support and have been patient with me and with each other as we do the best we can lead in the midst of this crisis. On Monday, we held a virtual student town hall with nearly 100 attendees to provide students with critical information on classes, remote services, and on extensive question and answer session led ably by our Vice President of Student Services, Vicki Ferguson, and our Director of Student Activities and Campus Life, Gary Albury, and a team of managers and faculty who provided encouragement and support. I was heartened by the way our team answered questions both verbally and on chat with speed and care. Dr. Mildred Lewis, our Dean of Enrollment Services, was the quickest there to offer clear answers and support on our chat function. Finally, I offer my gratitude to our students in the thousands who continue to rely on us and trust us to serve them with compassion and care. We stand in solidarity with communities that are united to combat racism and xenophobia. Racism and hate are the true virus, and I've seen firsthand how Laney College community is working collaboratively to fight ignorance with education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gilkerson. And may I have Dr. David Johnson with Merritt College please give a report?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to give this report on behalf of Merritt College. I want to begin by saying that I hope that everyone's well and your families are well and you're taking care of yourselves as we navigate this challenging time. I want to begin by saying on Friday, March 27th, our Associated Students of Merritt College and the Inter-Club Council hosted a Zoom town hall meeting. Over 100 people participated in the town hall with our executive council led by Spencer Staggers Elmore, our Vice President Mubarak Haruna, and our ICC Chair Aziza Crowder moderating the discussion. It was a great opportunity to have students ask questions and us provide answers regarding remote instruction and student support services. I'm also pleased to announce that the Merritt College Business Department Advisory Board is being reestablished. That same day, March 27th, they held their first planning meeting with 14 faculty and administrators present. Cheryl Mayer of the Oakland Advisory Council is working with the committee to find support in digital entrepreneurship, and Jason Holloway is working with faculty members and Miss Kathy Mattis to support the Commercial Real Estate Alliance for Tomorrow's Employees, or CREATE, Fellows Program, which I know is near and dear to one of our trustees' heart, which is an initiative to prepare students to be job ready for the real estate business. I also have some information about some students, which is always my favorite part. So I want to talk very briefly about 4 of our students. There are 4 members of our men's basketball team, and very good news for all 4. Adam Sindelar, who's a transfer, a foreign exchange student from Spain, just got a scholarship to Florida National University in Miami. And he's going to be carrying a 3.1 GPA with him on a full ride to play basketball in Miami. So we're very proud of him. He's going to be on track to graduate in May. Devin Pierce, who is a local high school graduate, is also getting a scholarship. He's going to Pacific University in Oregon, and he's also carrying a 3.1 GPA with him when he transfers. Brandon Manning, who's a co-captain and who was the player of the year in the first team all-conference in the Bay Valley. He is the first Merritt College basketball player in 6 years to earn a scholarship to a Division I school. He's going to South Carolina State. So we're very proud of him. And finally, Jared Bailey, who's the other Merritt co-captain. He has a 3.0 GPA, and he has 2 offers, one from Montreat University in North Carolina and one from Dillard University in Louisiana, and he's weighing his options. So I'd like to congratulate them, Coach Derek Jones, for his leadership, and I'm very proud of these young men as they move to continue their academic and athletic careers. And in closing, I just want to say that I'm very thankful for the support and the collegiality and collaborative efforts of the faculty, staff, and administration at Merritt, who are working together to provide our students with the support that they need to navigate the sea change that we're experiencing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And one of the things, if I can just take a point of personal privilege before I close my remarks out, 2 things. One is in your on board docs, trustees, you have a document that's called, I try to provide you with a collaboration timeline. And that is because as we are working with different faculty and staff, we're having meetings with different faculty and staff throughout the district in order to make some of the decisions that we're making. And I asked the leadership to please provide that information to me, including how many people are involved in the discussions or the meeting or the presentation, etc. And I try to provide that to you weekly. So you'll notice that this week, from March 30th until April the 3rd, the administration in working on these issues has met with, and it's a duplicated head count because sometimes some of the same people are in different meetings, but has met with over 600 faculty and staff. So I gave you very specific information. For an example, people that participated in the virtual flex day, or people that participated in a student services meeting where they're trying to figure out, virtual counseling and, different types of ways in which student service will be available to students as they go through remote instruction. People that are participating in the discussions that maintain dual enrollment, and even the responses that we get back from surveys so that you can have an idea of the types of ways in which we try to communicate with people and get the information to inform the decisions and the ways in which we move forward. And I'll continue to add to that each time. So I know that you get a lot of comments about communication and collaboration, but clearly sometimes if the person that's making the comment is not part of that particular meeting, they may not be aware of those types of things. So I just wanted to make sure you have that background information. And then lastly, before I close my remarks, I would just like to take a point of personal privilege and thank Dr. Debbie Budd from the bottom of my heart for being willing to come and be a part of this executive leadership team and to step into it with the full force of advocacy and, quite frankly, the tenor of a very seasoned and competent and established CEO, former chancellor, and then college president as she returned home to Berkeley City College. So from the bottom of my heart, I really want to thank you on behalf of this entire district. I'm sure, and I'm certain that the faculty, staff, and students of Berkeley City College have a deep gratitude and appreciation as well. Thank you so much. And Madam Chair, with that, that's the end of my report.